Revenge films.
I got engaged to my fiancé, Kevin, in my mid-20s. We had already introduced ourselves to each other's parents and were getting ready for marriage. Our wedding invitations had been sent out, so all we had to do was look forward to our wedding. Now that the wedding preparations were out of the way, I decided to use my free time to get my driver's license. My fiancé wanted me to quit my job after we got married, so I handed in my resignation at work. I wasn't quitting my job to become a housewife. My husband's family had their own business, and they wanted me to join their company now that I was becoming part of their family. Everything in my life was going well until one day, my husband came home to see me with my best friend.
I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'd like to call off our engagement. I've fallen in love with Lisa and want to marry her instead. We're actually expecting a baby together.
I was shocked to hear this. I didn't know that he was seeing someone else behind my back, and of all people, he was dating my best friend. Kevin and I had been dating for a long time, and it was my dream to marry him. I also wanted to have kids with him, but just like that, my dream had been crushed. I didn't want to get pregnant until we were married, so I was careful about that. But now that I knew that he had impregnated my best friend, I was furious. I was just as angry with my best friend Lisa. What was she thinking, and how could she do this to me? I had been planning for the perfect wedding for months, and Kevin and Lisa ruined it all. Kevin and I first met in middle school. We've known each other for a very long time. I couldn't believe that he would betray me in the worst way possible. When we both entered university, we had a long-distance relationship because we lived in different parts of the country at the time. I felt like an idiot for trusting Lisa. I thought that she was happy for me and Kevin, but I was wrong. Kevin had the decency to apologize, but for some reason, Lisa didn't seem apologetic at all. What was her problem? I now knew that her friendship was fake and that she had used me to get closer to Kevin. Kevin came from a good family, and I guess Lisa wanted to marry someone like him. He was a good catch. She must have been so proud in that moment. She had gotten everything that she wished for. Lisa seemed proud of herself and happy with the outcome. I couldn't do anything about the situation because Lisa was pregnant with Kevin's child. I knew that it was all over for me. I became very depressed after that. I never imagined that something so terrible could happen to me. I had thoughts of committing suicide as well. I didn't have anything to look forward to anymore. I had the urge to jump in front of a train if that would put an end to my misery. And to make matters worse, Kevin's father got in touch with me and said that he would do everything in his power to make sure that our wedding took place as planned. Perhaps he was trying to be considerate, but I didn't see the points of going ahead with the wedding. Kevin was the father of Lisa's child, and I don't think I could ever get over that. I found out later that Kevin's father wanted me to marry Kevin for selfish reasons. He didn't care about my happiness at all. Kevin's father didn't want his business partners to find out about the mess that Kevin had created, as it would be an embarrassment to his family. He told me that Kevin and I could announce that we broke off things after a while most of the people would have lost interest. I was so disappointed in Kevin and his family because they were not the honorable people that I thought they were. My parents were furious with Kevin and his family for what they had done to me. My parents sued Kevin's family for the mental suffering that they caused me. Suing Kevin's family didn't make me feel any better, and my mental health was deteriorating. My parents were very concerned. They suggested that I go live with my aunt for a while for a change of scenery. My aunt was single and had a fabulous career. My aunt allowed me to accompany her to the office. I was mesmerized by the way she worked. She offered me a job, and I decided to take it. After working with my aunt for a while, I was transferred and healed. Soon after that, I met my current husband. We hit it off right away, and after we were married, we had 2 kids. Because my husband knew what I had gone through with Kevin, he agreed to not having a wedding. He just went to City Hall to register a marriage. He was very understanding. My parents were also very happy for me. My husband and I built a large house so that we could live there with his parents. They were going to help us raise our kids. I loved my new house. It was my dream home, and everything was going beautifully. My in-laws and I got along well. My father-in-law still worked part-time, and he loved his job. My mother-in-law was a famous cook, and she would often appear on television shows. They also supported my career and would help out with the kids whenever I needed them.
Why don't you hire a housekeeper? You can't do everything on your own. It's okay to ask for help.
I'm sure that you want some free time just to have fun with your children. I was so grateful to my in-laws and the happy new life that I was having now. I was reluctant to go see my parents because they lived in my old neighborhood, and it reminded me of Kevin and Lisa. That's why I would ask my parents to come visit me instead of the other way around. But then my father passed away, and I was back in my old neighborhood for the funeral. I was too sad to think about Kevin and Lisa, though. I had just lost my dear father. My husband and children attended the funeral with me. I stayed with my mother for a while. I wanted to support her through this. It had been a while since I spent so much time with my mother. I'm glad to see you doing so well, Karen. It would have made your father happy too. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to make the time to see you more often. That's all right. I know that it's not easy for you to be back, and I can see that you're very happy with your family. Your father and I enjoyed reading the letters you sent us, along with the beautiful photos of your family. I began to cry after hearing these words. I missed my father terribly. I was upset that I didn't get to see him before he passed away. My father had passed suddenly, and my mother and I were having a hard time processing his death. But in front of my kids, my mother was strong, and she would smile and laugh. I asked her if she'd like to move in with us, but she told us that she preferred to stay in this house, which was full of memories of my father. I started sending my mother some money every month. I wanted her to live a comfortable life even after my father was gone. But after a while, my mother told me that she didn't need me to send her money. She said that she could live off the insurance money that she was about to receive. Okay, well, the kids and I are going to come visit once a month. We don't want you to be lonely. Also, you're more than welcome to stay with us any time. Yes, thank you, Karen. Say hello to your husband's parents for me. Take care of Mom, and I'll see you again next month. Call me whenever you need me. Do you want me to stop by the department store before we go home? I'd like to pick up some gifts for your parents. And I'm sure that the kids are starving. They were on such a good behavior at the funeral.
Sounds good.
Yay! I want something yummy. Me too.
I also need to pick up some stationery in order to write letters to my relatives.
Okay.
As we were making our way to the department store, I saw a couple that I recognized. They came out of an old apartment building. It was Kevin and Lisa. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Karen, is that really you? And is this your family?
Lisa wasn't wearing any makeup, and her hair was very messy. And she was clad in an ugly tracksuit. Kevin wasn't dressed any better. He was wearing a wrinkled suit and had a mustache which made him look like a clown.
Karen! It's so nice to see you!
Yeah. This is my husband and our 2 children. My husband owns a tech company, and he's doing really well.
That's great.
I only said that to rub it in their face, and it worked because they seemed surprised to hear that.
Mommy, I'm hungry, and I'm sick of eating instant noodles. Okay, let me prepare you something to eat.
Lisa seemed a little embarrassed, and she changed the subject.
What brings you back? What are you doing these days?
I came back to attend my father's funeral. I live in a different town with my family and in-laws. We're on our way home now.
I see. Well, I'm glad to see you happy.
Yes, I am. I also have a great job. My in-laws work full-time as well. My mother-in-law is a famous cook. Perhaps you've heard of her?
What? Of course I've heard of her. She's super famous.
Yes, she is. Since we're all so busy, we have a housekeeper who helps us with chores. Lisa seemed jealous of my fabulous life. Hey, Kevin, I want to thank you. Because you cheated on me with Lisa, I now have a wonderful life with my husband and 2 kids. I hope that you and Lisa are just as happy. I said that out of spite because from the looks of it, they did not seem happy.
I'm glad to hear that, Karen. Lisa and I are happy too. It seems that things worked out for everyone.
After that, they ran off. Once I got home, I texted my mother about running into Kevin and Lisa. She then told me that when I didn't go through with my wedding with Kevin, his parents were so embarrassed and ashamed that they cut Kevin off. Everyone found out that Kevin had cheated on me and impregnated another woman. Business partners lost faith in Kevin's family's business, and they stopped working with them. By the time Lisa had given birth to their daughter, they were penniless, and the people around them didn't congratulate them because they knew what Kevin and Lisa had done to me. Our mutual friends were angry with Lisa for betraying me and stopped being her friend.
I can't believe that Lisa slept with her best friend's fiancé! What a slut!
We know that you're after Kevin's family's money. No matter where they went, people gossiped about their affair, and they had no choice but to isolate themselves from everyone. Since Kevin and Lisa both had bad reputations, they had difficulty finding stable jobs. Lisa had no idea that I found myself a new man and was happily married. After she found out, she became crazy jealous and started cyber-stalking me. She looked at the fun photos I posted about my life on my Instagram and envied me.
I'm so jealous of Karen. It's not my fault that she gets to go on all these fancy vacations with her perfect family. Kevin, I want to go on vacation too. It's not fair.
Kevin and Lisa fought constantly and eventually they got divorced. They didn't deserve to be happy after what they did to me. That's why they ended up where they are today.
I divorced once, but I'm living now with my current wife, Lila, and we are 3 months pregnant. I have a 6-year-old son who was living together with my ex-wife. Before marrying Lila, I told her that I had an ex-wife and a son living with her. I also told her that if something happened to my wife, I'll be taking my son in and taking care of him. At that time, Lila was understanding about the situation.
I don't care about blood ties. Even if our child is born, I will love your son equally as I will love our child.
I was so happy that she said that, so I married her, and we even bought a house. However, one day, my ex-wife died. It was so sudden that I lost my presence of mind because of shock. But I rushed to my son because I was worried about him. My son cried because he lost his mother. It's beyond my imagination how grieved my son was at the time when he was still 6 years old. Don't worry. Everything will be alright. Daddy's here now. Things will be alright from here.
Mom is gone? She's not coming back. I can't see her again.
Yes, your mother's gone. But you'll be living with me now, so don't worry.
I will live with you, Dad.
Yes, that's right, John. You won't be alone anymore. Because from now on, you, me, and my current wife, we'll be living together. When I said that, my son nodded his head as if he was relieved. My son and I met once or twice per month, so he was attached to me. My son and my current wife have met before, and there were even days when my son slept at our house on meeting days with him. Also, he's a boy, but he's a good boy and behaves well. However, when I brought my son home to live with us, my current wife said she didn't want him. Even when I told her that she said she was fine when something like this happened, but she got angry and said that she didn't want to take my son in at all. My head went blank, but I'm the only one left for my son. I'm his parent after all. That's why, when I said to my current wife that I'm going to take my son home, she strongly said that she doesn't want to have my son in our house, and she would never forgive me if I brought him home. Before even getting married, we promised to take care of my son in the event that something happens. So I asked her why not when she promised to which she replied that the reason is because since we have a baby on the way, she can't take care of both her baby and someone else's baby. I never thought that my ex-wife would pass away at such a young age, but I already asked my current wife if she'll be alright if I took in my son if ever something happens, and she smiled and said of course. However, when something really happened and I had to take my son in, she rejected him, so I don't know what to do anymore. In the meantime, my son and I stayed at a hotel, but I decided to take my son to foster care while I tried to convince my current wife to take my son in. You don't have to worry that much. Everything will be alright, I promise. This is just a preparation for us to be able to live together.
Okay, Daddy. I understand. I'll be waiting, okay?
Good boy. I'll settle things down, so you just wait for me to come back, okay? Just like that, I decided to try to convince my current wife to take my son in. Of course I care about my wife, but despite saying yes to taking care of my son in the event that something happens, she said she didn't want to and rejected it. There's no way she could just change her mind like that when the life of my son depends on us. I talked to her many times, but my current wife replied,
Your family are me, and our son is in my belly, right? We should be the only ones who you need to be protecting.
I was utterly shocked when she said those words. My current wife is about to give birth, so she said that she couldn't take care of my son, but it's not like I don't intend to help with taking care of the children. However, I couldn't stop myself from the growing distrust that I had for her. I also couldn't believe the fact that the person who was about to give birth wanted me to get rid of my son, the child who's related to me by blood. Of course I married my wife because I love her, but that's also because I thought she would understand the situation of my son. Then, in the middle of the back and forth discussion of me and my wife, she said that I'm not listening to what she's saying, and so she left our house and went to her parents' house. I had no choice, so I went to foster care and took my son home with me. I then went to my parents-in-law's house many times after that. Then I tried to convince my wife again. If I can't take my son in, he'll have to go to foster care, even though he has me, his father. I told my wife many times what might happen if she still disagreed. However, her response was,
I said I don't want to take him in. As long as that child is still in our house, I will not go home.
She said, and didn't even try to go home. I also told my parents-in-law that if ever something happened, I would have to take my son in, and they understood the situation. That's why they helped me convince my wife. How pitiful of John for losing his mother, and his father can't take care of him. Also, Dylan told you that he has a son, and if ever something happens, he would take John in. You nodded and agreed to that, right? But now that you really need to take John in?
I just said those words so that he will marry me. I never really thought that I would take him in. Why do I have to raise a child of someone else? The boy should just be put in foster care or whatever.
How could you say such a thing? You're about to become a mother, aren't you?
That's right. It's because I'm becoming a mother. That boy is not my family. He's the family of his ex-wife, right? That ex-wife of his passed away. He should just be brought to foster care. That boy has no place in my family.
Lila said that, so my parents-in-law were the ones who apologized to me. I would understand it if she couldn't keep up with her emotions about having my son from my previous marriage live with us, and I was determined to convince her, so I tried countless times. But I soon learned that she didn't really want my son in the first place, and she lied that she did, just so I would marry her. I was astonished and disappointed, so my feelings for my current wife gradually faded. But the reality is that my current wife has our baby in her belly, so I thought hard about what I needed to do. While I was contemplating this, my wife broke the news to me that she had a miscarriage. While I was trying to grasp the situation,
My baby is gone because you brought your son to our house. That son of yours is a cursed child. This is all because of your son's fault.
she went mad and said that to me. Of course, I was also shocked that our baby's heart stopped beating, but the doctor explained to us that it had nothing to do with my son. Despite that, my wife kept on speaking ill about him, saying that he's a devil and that I should get rid of him that instant. Then she kept on calling me on the phone every day.
You should take your son to foster care. I wish that son of yours was the one that disappears instead of my baby.
She said those harsh words to me. Come to think of it, I understand that it might be difficult for her to see the face of my son, but what happened to our baby has nothing to do with him. The doctor at the hospital also told us that the problem was with the baby. Also, she should consider that my son just lost his mother. But no matter how many times I told her, my wife never changed her mind, and she kept on speaking ill of my son, and she even said that she wouldn't forgive him for existing. Considering all that, I talked to my parents-in-law and decided to file for a divorce. My heart also hurts because our baby is gone, but I knew that it was wrong to blame my son for what happened. Every time my wife and I met, she kept on speaking ill of him. So my parents-in-law came, and they made her accept the divorce papers. Before we got divorced, my wife didn't come home, and she sometimes came to visit a little, and
You should not have been born. It's your fault why my baby is gone, so you should just be gone too.
said those horrible words to my son. So he got emotionally scarred, but with the days that we lived together, the expression on his face brightened, and he started to be able to live normally. Then my son and I started living together, just the two of us. We decided to live in the house that my second wife and I used to live in, and during days when I work until late at night, I decided to hire a babysitter. My son has nothing to do with my first wife passing away or my second wife's baby's disappearance. That's why I thought that from now on, I want to protect him. After my second wife and I got divorced, she went crazy. Even after our divorce, she kept on wandering around our house. However, I was worried about what she might do, so I reported her to the police, and she was taken to the police station. But even while the police caught her, she desperately explained,
What's wrong with me going home? A little devil boy is living in that house. I need to drive him away from there.
She raised her voice while the police took her to the police station. I learned later on from my parents-in-law that after the divorce, they would have her see a psychiatrist. As for me and my son, since I used my savings to pay the down payment for the house, we're struggling a bit financially. But with my son by my side, I feel like I can do my best to overcome this hurdle and live a happy and fulfilled life together with him.
My name is Sally. I live together with my husband Sean and our son Kyle. I've always had poor eyesight since I was an elementary school student, and I couldn't see anything without my glasses. I am working part-time at an optical store where I had my eyeglasses made. My husband also had poor eyesight like me, so we were very worried that our son might inherit our poor eyesight. But thankfully, our son has no problems with his eyesight. Kyle used to be a mommy's boy, but ever since he started high school, he became rebellious like most teenagers become. So even when we're living under the same roof, he doesn't talk to me as much as he used to. He's part of the basketball club since he was in elementary school, and now that he's studying in a prestigious high school, he goes on a series of basketball tours with his team. My husband has a pretty low salary, so I work part-time to pay for our son's tuition fees and extracurricular club activities. But our son always looked at me with a cold eye stare. I understand that he's at a rebellious stage in his life, and I knew that this would eventually come. I have no choice but to get through this period, so I decided to just not speak to him and instead watch over him as a mother. As for my husband, he had a difficult time getting promoted from his job, which he's been doing for a long time now. Because of that, he came home irritated every day. It became a routine of his to vent his anger every time he came home from work. Despite being displeased by my husband's behavior, he becomes uncontrollable when I make him feel angry, so I decided to ignore everything he said. Then one day my husband came home with a wild rage in his eyes. Welcome home.
That mistake wasn't all mine. But why am I the only one who lost their trust?
Apparently, Sean made a huge mistake at work, and after being scolded by his supervisor, he was removed from the task that was assigned to him. That is why his eyes were filled with rage. Since then, he kept on drinking alcohol every day, and even started abusing me physically. Welcome back home. Did you go out for drinks with your colleagues?
There's no way I get invited to have drinks with my colleagues. Are you being sarcastic?
Sean, stop it! Ah!
Don't shout!
Please, stop it.
I'm going to bed now.
One day, when I was experiencing physical abuse, my mother-in-law suggested that we go on a family trip together. We agreed to her suggestion, and thus it was decided. My husband is at the behest of my mother-in-law, so he tried forcing our unwilling son to go with us on the trip. My mother-in-law has always had a sarcastic personality, and honestly, I didn't like her, so I frankly didn't want to go on the trip. However, there is no way I would say no to them. The dreaded day of the family trip came. During lunchtime on the day of the trip, we decided to stop at a service station on the expressway on our way to the hotel. I've been looking forward to this family trip, but my grandson won't talk at all, and my daughter-in-law looks rather depressed. What's wrong with the two of you?
I'm sorry, Mom. Hey, you two! Entertain my mother!
I'm sorry.
Anyway, why don't we stop at the next service area? I heard that there's a tasty local delicacy.
Sounds good. Let's do that. When we arrived at the service area, Kyle, who hasn't spoken a single word yet, wandered around the souvenir section. While my husband and my mother-in-law were eating, I decided to go to the restroom, so I left my seat and headed to the restroom. The moment I stood up and started walking, I tripped over my mother-in-law's foot, and shocked by the sudden occurrence, I was caught off balance and dropped my eyeglasses on the floor. Then, a moment later, I heard an unwelcome crashing sound. Sean's next words made me realize that he stomped on my eyeglasses.
I can't go on a trip together with someone who can't entertain my mother. So let's go, Mom.
Wait, what? Where are you going? Wait a minute, where's my bag? Ignoring me, my husband and my mother-in-law left without my eyeglasses. Using the wall as my guide, I was finally able to arrive outside, but since I couldn't see, I couldn't find our car. Oh no, what should I do? I can't go back to the car. Losing my bag and without having my phone or wallet with me, on top of that, I can't see. At a loss of what to do, I tried to ask for help from the people around me, They helped me look for the car, but the search was to no avail, and they couldn't find the car either. That's when I realized that they truly left me behind. Since my wallet was not with me, I couldn't even ride a taxi, so I was stuck at the service area. Then, after a while, the policeman saw me and reached out. When I told them what had happened, they immediately took me to the police station, as if they were searching for me. Then, one of the police officers called my husband, so Sean came rushing into the police station near the service area where I was.
I was worried sick because I couldn't find you!
Why in the world did you leave her at the service area? Just because you couldn't find her? Were you really looking for your wife?
Of course, officer!
While Sean was intensifying his tone of voice, Kyle, who hadn't said a word since we left the house, started talking.
My father and grandmother broke my mother's eyeglasses and left her at the service area on purpose. I recorded their conversation.
Kyle? When I listened to the recording that Kyle saved on his phone, I heard my husband and my mother-in-law's conversation about intentionally planning to leave me at the service area. When Kyle went back to the car with his earphones on, and he was dozed off while listening to music, it was too late when he realized that I wasn't in the car. Then, when he realized what was happening, he started recording the conversation of his father and grandmother. He told Sean that he wanted to go to the restroom and asked that they make a quick stop at this next service area. When they arrived there, Kyle secretly contacted the police. I would like to ask you some questions about what happened. To take away the bag and eyeglasses and leave her there. How evil of you to do that! You don't seem to realize the scale of what you did. This won't be treated as just a silly prank. As a result, my husband was strictly admonished by the police for hours, and we ended up canceling the family trip. When we arrived home, Kyle came to my room. I was surprised because he didn't really come to my room.
Mom, the police mentioned that they'll sue Dad for domestic violence, right? You should get a divorce as soon as possible.
Kyle saw me continuously enduring the physical abuse that I was getting from Sean. Kyle later told me that he was always looking for opportunities to create a chance to talk to the police about the situation. Being able to talk to the police about the physical abuse I was getting from my husband, I learned that I'd demand alimony from Sean. Because of that, I felt like I could be forward-looking regarding that. Just like that, thanks to my son, I was able to make the first step. Even though my son was in a rebellious stage of his life, and even though he didn't listen to what I said, he was worried about me deep inside. Because of that, when it was time to initiate a discussion with my husband about the divorce, Kyle accompanied me to protect me, and also to help me convince Sean to get a divorce. There is something that I would like to discuss with you.
What? You two both have something to discuss with me?
Let's get a divorce.
What? A divorce? You're just kidding, right? Mom is serious. You physically abused her a lot. Did you seriously think that it wouldn't come down to this? Since when did you learn to talk back to your father?
I can't live with you anymore. I will leave this house.
I will go with Mom.
Kyle.
You've got to be kidding me. Stop playing around. There's no way I would agree to a divorce.
Sean, please stop physically abusing me.
You should stop, Dad. Mom, let's go. There's no need for us to deal with him anymore. Hey, wait a second! You two! Don't think you'll be forgiven for doing this!
My husband tried to disagree with the divorce until the end, but when I hired a lawyer and asked for alimony from Sean, he quietly laid down and gave in, and he finally agreed to the divorce. Having to live in my parents' house on short notice, Kyle and I moved into a new apartment after the divorce was settled. We will be living here in our new apartment starting today. I'm sorry that all I can afford is a small apartment. Thank you for choosing to live with me, Kyle. When I said that, my son didn't say anything back. Instead, he handed me an amulet for protection that he bought from the souvenir store. This is...
I'm grateful that you always worked hard for me. Thank you.
Of course, that's a given, Kyle. I'm your mother, after all. I will do anything for my precious son. When we started living in a small apartment with just the two of us, my son started speaking more and more. We lived and laughed in harmony like we used to. As for my ex-husband, he was sued for domestic violence, and he ended up having to pay alimony all at once. As a result, he lost his family and property. It was usual for him to vent his anger on me and physically abuse me, so he had nowhere to vent his anger. He ended up injuring someone and got arrested. As a result, he got fired from his job. So now all he can do is depend on his mother, who is living on her pension. Both of them ended up living a very destitute life. A few years ago, I was mugged on the streets, and it was a frightening experience for me, especially because I was pregnant at the time. I was 3 months pregnant, and it was my first time. I had it pretty easy during my first trimester, and I didn't have any morning sickness. One day, I was at the clinic for my regular parental checkup. I was in the waiting room with my friend Melanie, who was also pregnant.
Have you heard about people getting mugged in broad daylight in our neighborhood? Isn't that so scary?
No, I hadn't, and that is scary.
A criminal is on the loose, and they've been mugging people left and right, and they tend to target elderly people and pregnant women like us.
That's terrible.
One of my pregnant friends was mugged the other day, too, so we need to be very careful. The person who mugged her stole her bag, which had her wallet inside. She reported it to the police right away, but they haven't been able to catch the culprit yet.
Was your friend and her baby okay, though?
Yes, luckily neither my friend nor her baby were hurt. I'm glad that my friend didn't have a bad fall.
Yes, me too, and I hope they catch this person soon. I don't feel safe.
Yes, I hope so too.
Once I got home, I talked to my husband about what Melanie had told me.
I heard about that as well, and it's terrifying. My friend's father was mugged, and he broke his arm when the culprit shoved him.
That's so dangerous. I feel so bad for him.
I want you to be careful as well. I don't want anything bad to happen to you or our baby.
Yes, I will. Some time passed, but the person mugging the people in our neighborhood hadn't been caught yet. It was time for me to go back to the clinic to get another parental checkup. I drove myself to the clinic because I thought that it'd be safer than walking the streets. At the time, my husband's aunt had undergone a simple procedure and was staying at the hospital. I decided to stop by the supermarket and buy her some fresh fruit to check in on her. I parked my car in the parking lot of the supermarket and made my way to the store. To my horror, I was mugged. It all happened so quickly, too. But I was able to remain calm thanks to my friend Melanie, who had told me about him beforehand. I held onto my purse tightly so the man couldn't yank it out of my hand. I got a good look on the man's face. He was wearing a mask, but I saw his eyes. The man seemed startled as he didn't expect me to put up a fight. I didn't want to lose. I wanted this man locked up for good. He had hurt so many innocent people. The man then shoved me hard on the shoulder and I almost fell. I was now furious. He wasn't going to get away with this. I slapped the man hard in the face twice. People at the supermarket realized what was happening and came outside to help me. Someone called the police, and the man was finally arrested. This nightmare was supposed to be all over, but the man tried to counter-sue me. Unbelievable! He said that I had injured him and that I should be held responsible. I was held responsible because I had used my karate skills to counterattack the man. The police officer in charge was perplexed as well because he knew that I had only tried to protect myself from the man trying to mug me. We were in a pickle. After talking things over with my husband and Melanie, they found me a lawyer. I explained to my lawyer that I had taken karate classes as a young child and that I didn't use my skills to harm the culprit. It was self-defense, and I acted out of fear of what he might do to me and my baby. I also told my lawyer that from experience, I knew that I couldn't beat my man with karate skills even if I wanted to.
Did the man trying to mug you attempt to harm you?
Yes, he did. He shoved me hard in the shoulder, and the fact that he was trying to mug me in the first place is reasonable grounds for self-defense.
Let's obtain a medical certificate from a doctor stating that you nearly fell and hurt yourself because of what the man did to you.
The doctor confirmed that I had a bruise where the man shoved me, and he wrote a medical certificate for me. My lawyer and I submitted a report to the police stating that the man tried to harm me and my baby. The man finally gave up after that, and he was charged with theft and violence. The lawyer negotiated that if the man agreed to drop the charges against me, I would do the same. The man reluctantly agreed, and I was no longer being charged for a crime. As for the man, he had committed many crimes by that point, and he was going to be sentenced for a long time in prison. The police explained to me that although I nearly committed a crime by accident, I had acted for the greater good. The man had mugged and also harmed so many people in the past. The police officer thanked me personally for helping them arrest the man, as they had a difficult time getting to him.
We were worried that the man was going to get back at you for hurting him, but in the end, justice prevailed. Please take care of yourself and your baby. No more karate, please.
Yes, I will. Thank you, officer.
We thank you for your cooperation in catching the guy. You were very brave.
The next time I saw Melanie at the clinic, she told me that.
I had no idea that you were so strong, Lisa. Keep going. Now we can all go to sleep at night feeling safe.
My husband told me not to get too carried away, though. He told me that I seem to forget that I'm pregnant with our baby.
Well, he has a good point. You need to look after your baby. That's most important.
After I had almost been mugged, I called my husband and he told me that he would drive me to the hospital to make sure that our baby was safe.
Let me get you to the hospital right away!
After my checkup, I was relieved to know that no harm was done to our baby. Even after we got home, my husband continued to lecture me about the importance of taking care of my pregnant body.
You're going to be a mother soon. You need to protect our baby at all costs, okay?
I knew that he was right, although I was lucky that our baby was fine. If things had gone wrong, the consequences would have been catastrophic. I told myself that I wouldn't be so reckless again. But this one time, I was grateful that nothing bad had happened, and I was able to prevent other innocent people from falling victim to the evil man. I'm sorry for all the worry that I caused you. I'm glad that nothing bad happened to our baby. After the man was arrested, the police found that he had kept all the purses and handbags that he had stolen from his victims. And after that, the police returned all the items to their rightful owners. I was relieved to hear that because I'm sure that many of these victims miss their precious belongings. I hope that the man spent all his time in jail regretting what he had done to many of his victims. Everyone in town thanked me for my bravery and bringing peace back into our neighborhood. Some people sent me thank you letters and congratulated me on the pregnancy. They told me that they couldn't wait for the arrival of my baby. I was touched by all this. The man tried to get away with his crimes by countersuing me, but I'm glad that he wasn't able to get away with this. He committed some serious crimes and he needed to pay for them. He should have known that even if he gotten away with suing me, he wouldn't be arrested for his other crimes anyways.
Why am I the one getting arrested? It doesn't make sense! The woman tried to hurt me!
I didn't understand how he saw himself to be the victim after he harmed so many people. He couldn't expect to get away with this. I was so glad that I was the one that was able to put him away for a long time. I had my karate skills to protect me, but if it had been anyone else, he could have done some serious damage. I was grateful for the fact that I was able to help with the arrest of the harmful man, and also come out of it without any big damage to myself. A few months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby boy. My husband and I were ecstatic.
I hope that our son turns out to be brave and strong like his mother.
You bet. I'm going to teach him all the karate that I know. I hope he grows up with a kind heart as well.
I hope that he grows up with a kind heart as well. He better not be as reckless as you, though.
Get over it. I knew that my husband was only teasing me. Teaching my son karate was going to be the easy part, but more importantly, we wanted our son to be empathetic and kind to others. I learned that my husband has been cheating on me for years now. How I learned of his affair is a typical way, but I heard his phone notification while he was taking a bath. When I checked his phone, it was a message from a woman. My husband had an anxious personality since before, so he put a lock on his phone just in case he drops his phone somewhere, and someone will happen to find it. That's why I wasn't able to probe easily. However, one day I had a chance. My husband has a work phone, but one day when he unlocked his phone, his work phone started ringing. So he went to the other room, and since he had been on call for a while, I checked his phone. Then I found pieces of evidence such as their messages and pictures together. So I took screenshots of them and sent them to my phone. After that, it proceeded at a rapid pace. That same night, I crammed up to my husband. I told him about his affair that I've been suspicious about, and I also showed him the pieces of evidence that I got from his phone. He probably thought that there was no point in making up lame excuses, so he confessed immediately. The woman he was having an affair with is his receptionist at his workplace, and she was in her 20s and 13 years younger than him. The business trip that he had was also just a vacation with that woman, and it seems like they've been together for years now. I already knew, but I was still shocked, so my husband said,
I'm sorry, but I can't see you as a woman anymore. Since it's come to this, let's get divorced.
He told me before he said his reflection. I was accused of being myself. Of course I was shocked. I admitted that I'm not as beautiful as I was before, and I have a bit of wrinkles. But just as I did, my husband also showed signs of age physically. Despite that, he compared me to someone who is 13 years younger. Of course I can't win when it comes to smooth and glowing skin of that young woman. But despite that, I desperately raised our son, and I also worked part-time earning the same amount as my husband's salary. With that money, I saved up for our son's college. But despite those efforts, this is what I get in return. Of course, I was shocked that he cheated on me, but I was 100 times more shocked when that man that I chose to marry told me that he can't even see me as a woman anymore. I understand. Let's get a divorce. I responded calmly to my husband, but my tears started flowing the moment I was alone. I didn't know what to do, so I just let tears flow until I had no tears left. Then the divorce proceeded, and we had decided who gets to live with our son. Who was in his 3rd year of high school. My husband said that after he and I got divorced, he will marry the woman whom he had an affair with. I don't really care about that, but he said that he would take our son with him. Brian will be living with me. I will not allow you to live with him.
There's no way you can raise Brian on your own. Brian is a grown-up now, so he won't need to be managed that much. That's why I'll have him live with me.
We both said that we wanted to live with our son, but Brian is already of an age where he can make his own decisions, so we decided to honor his judgment and let him decide. So the 3 of us ended up having a meeting. As for our son, we haven't told him yet that we will be talking about the divorce, but it seems like he could already tell what we were about to discuss, based on the heavy atmosphere and the conversation. That's why I said, I'm sorry you're gonna have to decide who you want to live with, because I can't live with your father anymore. Think hard about which decision you make. Brian had a long pause, and he said,
A man's affair is an instinct, right? Because they're made to distribute as many seeds as they can. What do you think, Dad?
Hearing those words come out of my son's lips, I was stunned and out of words. My husband and I were sitting on opposite sides of the table. Our son was sitting in the middle, but hearing what our son just said, my husband thought that Brian was on his side. Chase couldn't resist showing how happy he was to be chosen. I became hopeless thinking that my son was leaving me. My husband probably adores our son, but I, of course, love our son. That is why, even though I couldn't buy stuff for myself or go on trips, I worked hard every day to save up for Brian's college fees. Slapped with the reality before my eyes that my beloved son was going to choose to live with his father, I kept my head down and closed my eyes. However, the next moment, further words that came out of my son's lips turned to my husband's response upside down.
That's right. It's an instinct, so there's nothing I can do about it. I'm glad you understand. That's my boy. Is that so? So does that mean that you're not a human, but instead you're an animal who only moves with his instincts? I'm a human child, not an animal's child.
Brian replied and walked towards me and sat next to me. What? I couldn't hide my shock. Then I looked at my son's face. My husband was dumbfounded, as if he was betrayed by our son, who he thought was his ally. Up until that moment, our son didn't really show his emotions, but at the time, I could tell that he was angry at his father. Upset, my husband said,
Brian, didn't you say earlier that you understood how I felt? Aren't you going to live with me? I don't remember saying that. All I talked about was the topic of instincts. By the way, I have a rational sense to suppress my instincts, but you don't have rational sense, right? That's why you had an affair despite knowing that Mom would be hurt and cry, right? If I lived together with such a person as you, I might become scum like you. That's why I choose my mother, who has rational sense.
Chase got defeated in an argument with his son and opened his mouth in disbelief. After our meeting was adjourned, Brian said to me,
Even after you and Dad get divorced, I'll take care of you. So don't worry, Mom. With the money that you saved up from my college, I'll enroll in college and study hard there, so that I can make the future easier for you. So please, don't cry anymore, okay?
Finding out that my son noticed me crying made me cry even more. I was told seconds ago not to cry, but tears just wouldn't stop flowing down my cheeks. Then the divorce with my husband, who looked like his soul drained out of him, became final. After that, my son and I lived together. The house was under my husband's name, so my son and I had to leave the house, but since I was able to demand a lot of alimony from my husband and the woman, it looked like we won't have a hard time financially for the time being. Also, Brian's classmate's father owns a real estate agency, so helped us with finding a good okabe for us to live in. Thanks to that, we were able to smoothly start our life without Chase. As for my Chase, he and the woman apparently started living together too, but since Brian chose to live with me, so surprisingly, I was able to look forward to the future. Then, that same year, Brian graduated from high school and enrolled into university. Just as he declared, Brian graduated from a prestigious university. And he was able to find a job with a great company. Our place of dwelling was enough for us to live together until then, but since we were living in an old condo, we were able to move to a more spacious and better apartment after he got a job. Are you sure it's all right for us to be living in such a wonderful condo?
Don't worry about it, Mom. The company pays for 2/3 of the rent, so there's not much difference from the amount that I pay from the condo that we used to live in. So please, don't worry. And rest assured, you can now relax in this house, and you can quit your part-time job now.
That's what my son told me. Even after my ex-husband and I got divorced, I still couldn't forget his words he said to me that scarred my heart. There were times when I thought lowly of myself, because he couldn't see me as a woman anymore. But I was moved when I saw a fine young man my son has become. While I was living with my son with a filial piety, one day I bumped into the streets with my previous neighbor from my previous house.
Maya, is that you?
Oh, hello, Nina. Long time no see.
It really has been a while since we last saw each other. I feel so sorry about what happened to you and your husband. How are you feeling?
Yes, my son was able to get a job at a refreshing company and...
Wow, is that so? What an elite your son is.
I guess hard work really pays off.
I'm happy for you and your son, Nina. By the way, have you heard the rumor about your ex-husband?
No, I haven't, but according to what Nina said, my ex-husband lived together with a woman he had an affair with, but even after 1 year and then 2 years passed, they couldn't make a baby, so they learned that she was infertile. Chase was appalled because he wanted a child immediately, because he got separated from his son. Soon after, the two of them broke up. Then he wanted to contact Brian and me, so we tried searching for us, but no one wanted to help such a sinful man who cheated on his wife. That is the way he is living now, inside a small apartment all alone. He goes to the convenience store every day to buy sandwiches and noodles. He continued that lifestyle every day, so he is now twice his previous weight, and looks like a completely different person. I never thought that my ex-husband, who said that he couldn't see me as a woman anymore, is now overweight and looking like a whole different person. As for the affair, it was settled out in court with alimony, but the wound in my heart never healed. But thinking that my ex-husband received karma, I feel a little better now.
My name is Melanie. I'm 27 years old, and I have my own company. Business is going good, and I make a decent living. I lost my beloved mother at a young age, so I grew up with my father. I had a difficult childhood, and I went through a lot to get where I am today. My father was a big spender, and he didn't know how to use his money wisely. He also didn't like the work, which made life difficult for me. As soon as I was old enough to get a job, I got an after-school job so I could earn some money. I had to cut back on sleep to get everything done. I saved up enough money to go to college and graduated with top grades. I grew up poor, and now I was on my own. I was going to do everything in my power to earn enough money. I thought the most fastest and most efficient way of making money would be to start my own company, which is exactly what I did. Luckily, my business was a huge success, and I now had the life that I always dreamed about. The one downside was that I had to financially support my father, who had no issues with relying on his daughter for money. His spending habits hadn't improved at all, and he spent my hard-earned money to go out drinking and gambling. My father had accumulated a lot of debt over the years, and he was making me pay for his debts as well. I had no respect for his behavior, and we argued a lot about money. What in the world did you need to spend $100,000 for? I received a call from a loan shark. Do you know how upsetting that was for me?
I had no idea that I accumulated so much debt. Sorry about that, Mel.
Don't assume that I'm going to pay off your debt. This is your responsibility.
I'm your father. It's your responsibility to take care of me now that you're all grown up. I mean, I did raise you all these years.
How can you possibly say that to me? You never had a stable job, and we were so poor that I had to pay for my own education.
I know that you have the money, and I expect you to pay off my debts.
To that, I was speechless. My father was irresponsible and selfish. To make matters worse, my father brought over women to our house. She seemed to be a club hostess, and my father introduced her to me.
Melanie, meet my fiancé, Karen.
What?
Karen will be moving in with us from today. She's going to be your new mother. Please, treat her with all the respect that she deserves.
Karen and I were relatively close in age, but Karen made a point to act all superior in front of me. I hated her from the moments that we met.
I feel so sorry for your father. He's been stuck living with you all these years. It must be hard for him.
Karen, you need to be careful. Melanie has a short temper.
Well, I don't see why Melanie would get mad. I'm only stating the truth.
You don't need to make an effort to get to know Melanie. She's not worth your time.
I never enjoyed living with my father, and now that Karen was in his life, I was even more keen than ever to move out of this dreadful place. It bothered me that the two of them were smoking inside the house, and they were always making crass comments about other people. But I tried not to let it bother me. I was going to move out soon anyway. Karen came over to talk to me when my father wasn't around.
I'm starting a new life with your father, and you're in the way. Do me a favor and move out.
She was glaring at me as she said those words to me. I was happy that she said that to me, though, because it meant that there would be no fuss over me moving out. Okay, I will. I will move out ASAP.
Huh?
Please tell my father that I'm cutting all ties with him, and I don't consider him my father anymore. Karen seemed shocked because she didn't think that I'd actually move out. My father came home that evening, and I told him that I was moving out. Karen is kicking me out of the house, so I'm moving out.
Are you going to continue paying for my expenses, though?
You're on your own. Figure it out, Karen.
You can't do that! I rely on you for money! You can move out, but continue to give me my monthly allowance, okay?
My father was drunk and he shoved me hard, and I fell down onto the floor.
I married your mother for her money, but then she died, so now you're in charge of taking care of me! You don't know how much I suffered because we had no money!
He then poured the rest of his drink on top of my head. Although I didn't show it, I was livid. I hated that my father would say mean things about my mother. I loved her so much. I demanded that my father stay out of my life, and I left the house in a storm. Of course, I had no plans to give any money to my stupid father. I had finally gotten rid of him and was leading a happy life for the first time in a long time. Because I was now emotionally stable, my business was doing even better. Everything in my life was great, until one day. After a day of work, I came home to see Karen and two police officers standing in front of my building. I went over to the police officers asking what was going on.
There she is! She's the one who stole my husband's company from him.
What?
Officer, please arrest her! She's a thief!
Karen was being totally unreasonable, as always. The police officers told me that Karen had called them and said that I had taken my father's business from him. An outright lie. I explained that there was no truth in that, and I had started the company on my own. I handed them my business card.
She's lying! How could you do this to your own father? You're a monster! Because of what you did, your father no longer has the money to pay for his living expenses.
He never had any money. I've been paying for him all these years. My father hasn't had a job in years. It turned out that Karen was totally in the dark about my father's finances, and she seemed shocked to hear this.
That can't be true! Your father said that he was loaded! Whenever we went on dates, he took me out to really nice restaurants and bought me many expensive gifts.
I paid for all that. My father has always been a big spender, and he doesn't know how to take care of his money.
So you're not lying then?
I'm not. My father tricked you into thinking that he was a successful CEO. Did you know that my father has a lot of debt too?
What? He never said anything like that to me. I can't believe this is happening to me right now.
I think he spent too much on you as well as gambling. He has around $100,000 of debt.
100 grand? Surely you could pay all that off, right?
Perhaps, but I don't intend on doing that. Those debts are my father's, not mine. You're his wife. It's your responsibility to take care of him now.
But you're his daughter. How can you betray your father like this?
I think there was more that Karen wanted to talk to me about, but I didn't want to be a nuisance to the neighbors, so I ended our conversation there. The following day, my father showed up at my apartment.
Melanie, I'm sorry about the other day. Will you forgive me and move back in with us again? If you don't like Karen, I'll divorce her to make you happy.
She told me that you lied to her about being a successful CEO. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I wanted to impress her, okay? She's half my age, and that was the only way for me to get her to like me.
Like I said the other day, I don't consider you to be my father anymore. Please stop bothering me.
But what about my debts? How am I supposed to pay that money back? I've been out of work for so long now, and at my age, it's not easy to find a job. Do you expect me to become homeless?
I don't really care. Do what you want with your life. Just stay out of mine.
Wait, Melanie! Don't do this to me!
After my father left, I blocked his and Karen's phone numbers so that they couldn't get in touch with me so easily. I found out later that my father, being a gambling addict, couldn't stop gambling, and he accumulated even more debt over a short period of time. Karen felt betrayed because she thought that she had married a successful CEO, but that was not the case. After getting married to my father, she quit her job. She had no idea that she and my father were living off the money that he borrowed from loan sharks. By the time that she realized it, it was too late. There was too much debt. Karen used up all of her savings to pay back my father's debts. Even after that, they had a hard time paying for their living expenses because they were both out of work. They had no choice but to evacuate their home and wander the streets. A few months later, when I was out for a walk in the park, I saw my father and Karen. They appeared to be homeless and slept in the park bench. Their clothes were dirty and their hair was a mess. They had also lost a lot of weight. They were almost unrecognizable. But I wasn't going to go talk to them. I walked past them and went on with my life. I was enjoying my life and everything was going great. I recently started seeing this man that also runs his own company, and we got along really well. We have a lot in common, and we motivate each other to do well in business. I think if my father had still been in my life, I wouldn't have had the motivation to go out and date people. I was grateful that I was in a much better place now. I made the right choice in cutting all ties with my toxic father. I have a younger sister who my parents adore much more than they do me. I was lucky because my grandmother and friends were kind to me, and they made up for the love that I didn't receive from my parents. Anytime I needed someone to talk to, I would go to my friends instead of my parents. At the age of 21, I began seeing a man who was introduced to me by a friend. We dated for 3 years, and then he proposed to me. Of course I said yes. My fiancé came from a good family, and he was eventually going to take over his father's business as the CEO. He was 3 years older than me. His parents were really nice people too. They treated me better than my own parents. I knew that now that we're getting married, my fiancé and his parents would need to meet my parents at some point. Up until now, I hadn't talked much about my parents to my fiancé, but it was time for me to do so. At the same time, I couldn't keep my fiancé a secret from my parents any longer. My parents can be odd. Just ignore them if they say anything inappropriate. I'm sorry for all this.
That's alright. Meeting the in-laws is not an easy thing for anyone. I don't expect things to go as planned. If I want to marry you, I need to figure out a way to get along with your parents.
I loved him so much. He had a positive attitude about everything, and he made me really happy. It was a day for my fiancé to meet my parents for the first time. When I got to my parents' house, I was annoyed to see my younger sister there too. It bothered me that she was staring at my fiancé, and with a wicked smile. I was certain that she stayed home out of spite so that she could ruin this day for me.
Your fiancé is so handsome. What do you do for a living?
I work at Scott's Corporation.
That's why you seemed familiar. I saw your interview in a magazine the other day. You're going to take over the company from your father when you retire, right? You're a catch.
My sister continued to flirt with my fiancé, and she didn't seem bothered that I was standing right next to him. My parents weren't any better. I had come here today to introduce my fiancé to my family, but they acted like I wasn't even there. All they did was talk about my fabulous younger sister. After my fiancé went home, my mother said this to me. "He's too good for you. A man like him should get married to someone like your sister. You should break up with him so that he could get married to Miranda." She wasn't making any sense. That's crazy. I'm engaged to him, and I'm the one marrying him. Leave Miranda out of this. His parents are excited that we're getting married. It's official. Don't treat me like something that can be returned and replaced with something else.
Miranda is the good one in this family. Look at how beautiful she is. I am sure that over time, your fiancé will see that Miranda is better suited for him.
I knew that my parents favored Miranda over me, but now they were being absolutely ridiculous. I was hurt by their words and went over to my fiancé's house crying. I told him about what my parents had said to me earlier after that.
It's a shame that your parents don't seem to understand how much I love you.
Thank you. That makes me feel so much better. We decided to ignore my parents and go ahead with the wedding arrangements. The only thing that was difficult for me was the fact that I still lived with my parents and sister under the same roof.
When are you going to break up with your fiancé?
You don't deserve to marry a man like that.
Even if you do get married, he's going to get sick of you and cheat on you. If you don't want to get hurt, you might as well give him to me now. I started to spend more nights at my fiancé's place after that. I hated being around my own family. I would only have to put up with them for a little longer. One day I was in my bedroom, and I put some money inside the safe of my bedroom. The safe meant a lot to me because I inherited it from my late grandfather. I went out for a few hours that day and came home to my bedroom, which had been turned into a huge mess by someone. Who did this?
As I was asking myself these questions, my parents and sisters came to my room with evil grins. What a shame! Now that your money is gone, you won't be able to pay for your wedding. What do you mean? I know that you put some money aside for your wedding and put it into that safe. I took the liberty of taking the money and spending it on myself. What are you saying? That money wasn't for my wedding. That money wasn't even mine. What?
Whose money is that then, and why was it in your safe?
Well,
We're listening.
the money belongs to our aunt. Her daughter Nina is buying a new home, and the money is for the down payment. Grandma asked me to safekeep the money for a while. I had no idea. Why did you say anything to us about the money? I didn't have a reason to. That wasn't your monies to spend. And how are you going to pay back the money? This is your fault. You can pay back your aunt. You caused this misunderstanding. I did no such thing. How did you find the key to my safe? I can't believe that you went through my stuff. That's an invasion of privacy. Anyway, I'm going to tell my aunt and grandma about what happened with the money.
Hold on a sec. How do you even think that would make us look? Have you ever thought about that?
You have no right stealing the money regardless of who it belonged to. You're responsible for this. And I can't believe you did this out of spite for me. Why do you hate me so much? My parents and sister urged me to not make the phone call, but I ignored them. After my aunt and grandma found out about what my parents and sister had done, they came over and were furious. My aunt was furious with my mother and our sister. She yanked my mother's hair. Why would you do such a stupid thing? Explain it to me so I understand. Regardless of the reason, I expect you to pay back every cent. The money was for my daughter, not you. I'm sorry. Please stop pulling my hair. You're hurting me. My grandmother was glaring at Miranda.
Don't you think you caused enough pain to your sister already? What more do you want from her? You're being selfish anyway. I can't stand to watch you three bullying Mia anymore. I'm cutting all ties with you. I want you three to pack up your things and get ready to move out ASAP. Wait, Grandma? That's not what happened. I just thought that Mia's fiancé would be happier getting married to me. We're a better fit anyway. You have no idea what you're talking about, Miranda. I don't understand how you and Mia are sisters. You couldn't be so different from one another. You need to work hard to pay back the money that you stole from your aunt. You're not getting away with this. But Grandma...
Miranda was devastated to hear our grandma's harsh words.
And you. I don't know what you were thinking. I never understood why you favored Miranda over Mia. You're their mother. You shouldn't be playing favorites. What's the matter with you? I'm cutting you out of my life and my will.
Mom, you're joking, right? I'm your daughter.
Please do not do this! This is all a big misunderstanding! I am sure that if we sat down, we could come to some sort of agreement that works for all of us! Please do not cut us out of your will!
Too late. I've already decided to cut you three out of my life. I never want to see you again. And you're not invited to Mia's wedding either. Mia will have a nicer wedding without the three of you to ruin it for her.
In the end, my grandmother agreed to give my aunt the money that was stolen from her in exchange for my parents and sister moving out of the house and never contacting us again. I'm sorry about this, Mia. You were doing me a favor, but it ended up causing you more trouble. With the support of my relatives and friends, I had a beautiful wedding. I'm glad that my parents and sister weren't in attendance. My parents and sister moved into a small apartment after being kicked out of the house. My grandmother was wealthy, so my mother grew up not understanding what life was like without money. Now she was learning the hard way. She hadn't worked a day in her life, and she took on debt to pay her living expenses. In the end, she had so much debt that she had no choice but to work day and night doing menial tasks. My father was on an executive board at my grandparents' company, but now he is being kicked out of the company as well. My aunt sued my parents and sister for the money they stole from her. In the end, the three of them had to pay back a total of $50,000 to my aunt. That's the least they could do to pay for their crimes. My parents spoiled my little sister, so she didn't know how to do anything for herself. She was basically helpless. In order to pay back some of my parents' debt, she sold all of her expensive things that my parents had bought for her in the past. Miranda too had to find a job to help pay for the living expenses, but Miranda wasn't very pleasant to work with, which caused her to be fired every time she started a new job. My grandmother demanded that they send full salary to her until they returned the $30,000 that they initially stole from my aunt. I hope that they finally learned their lesson.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.